I'm playing one mission with every single overclock in the game to tell you what you can expect from each and every one. So far we've covered the base weapons for every class, but there's still 2 more sets to go. So this week we're circling back around to Scout and his precision M1000 rifle and the spray and pray Nuk SMGs. First up, we've got Marked for Death. This is a fairly odd overclock. It effectively negates the damage of your focus shots, but enemies hit by a focus shot take 50% more damage. That's combined with a mag size decrease and focus shot ammo cost increase and a faster focus speed. This overclock basically gets rid of all the M1's bursts in favor of shifting the burden onto other weapons and teammates. That damage boost is immense, and pairing it with a burst damage secondary can allow you to melt any heavy target that gets into effective range. Your burst is a lot less versatile, but depending on what you pair it with, you might never have problems killing tanky targets again. If you like weapon switching or don't focus shot often, this is a great overclock for you. Up next is Hoverclock. This simple clean quickly halts your momentum when you charge up a focus shot. Since fall damage is based on speed, not height, this gives Scout a great, always accessible way to stop fall damage. You can also use it to stay in the air for a good amount of time by chaining focus shots together. You need to chain them together. Holding one doesn't work, you'll start falling again, which can be useful for evading packs of grunts. Overall, you really need to lean into the benefits to see the strong points of this overclock, but hey, at worst, it's not harming you any. Now on to Active Stability System. This overclock reduces your reload speed, but in return it gives you a boost to focus speed and removes the movement penalty while focusing. The move speed bonus is great for lining up your shots on weak points or for blow through, and the focus speed increase does good for your burst potential. The reload penalty isn't too harsh either, but you'll still want to make your shots count to avoid getting caught with an empty clip. Hipster is a weird one. It lowers your damage by a significant amount but gives a massive ammo boost and a recoil recovery and rate of fire increase. This is basically the spam fire overclock. It's good for putting a lot of shots out very quickly, although you'll need the tier 1 damage upgrade or the tier 4 weak point upgrade to go back to one-shot headshotting grunts. While this is a good overclock for dealing with crowds, especially when paired with something like super blow-through, it also puts out surprising DPS if you spam it as fast as you can. This is a great overclock for people who just want as much ammo as possible, and while it changes the way you use the gun, it doesn't hurt much other than your focus shots. Minimal Clips gives a mag size increase and a faster reload. Like other cleans of this nature, it's great for keeping your gun loaded, which is very useful since the M1 tends to empty the mag very quickly. Taking this overclock made me feel confident enough to take the focus shot damage upgrade over the mag size increase, which in turn had me change up my tier 5 upgrade, which showed me just how good focus shot fear is if you can hit your shots, and just how absurd the focus shot ragdolls can get sometimes. Supercooling Chambers is basically the exact opposite of Hipster. You get an ammo and clip size penalty, slower focus speed and no movement while focusing, and a huge increase to focus shot damage and weak point damage on focus shots. This is also a great upgrade for those who use focus shots infrequently, but for different reasons. The colossal damage of your focus shots will basically one-shot most small enemies, and it's enough to get Praetorians in just a few shots. It can be anywhere from a one-shot kill to a massive spike damage on basically everything else. You will need to make every shot count though, and you'll want to rely on your secondary or teammates for larger crowds. Also remember that like Lead Storm, you can jump and preserve your momentum in the air while focusing to avoid being totally locked in place. And finally, Electrocuting Focus Shots. This reduces your focus shot damage bonus and makes your focus shots electrocute enemies. On average, you'll get more damage out of the electrification than you'll lose, but it's spread over a longer period of time. The 80% slow from electrocution is also a great feature, and overall, this is a great overclock for locking down tough targets while whittling their health away. One thing I did observe though is that enemies seem to only be able to have one copy of the electrocution debuff at a time, meaning Bosco's electric bullets and potentially other teammates that can electrocute enemies will fight over getting value out of their debuff. Now on to the Nuks. I was using gas recycling for the duration of my M1 testing, so that's where we'll start. Gas recycling gives you a big damage and armor break increase, but in exchange you're slowed while firing, your accuracy is slightly reduced, and you get no weak point damage bonus. Let me clarify that unlike Marked for Death, this just means that shooting a weak point regardless of what weak point does not deal any extra damage. It still deals the normal shot's damage. Despite the spread increase, this is a great overclock for medium range engagements since the shots that miss weak points won't be as much of a loss. It's also better against Praetorians, which, fun fact, don't have a weak point multiplier despite having a weak point, and it's fantastic for cleaning up swarmers as it bumps your damage into the one-shot kill range, which no other build can accomplish outside of an IFG field. If you can't be bothered to aim at weak points or get a lot of trouble from swarmers, then this is a great overclock for you, but if you're more of the kind of person who uses the Nuks against grunts, then you'll probably want another overclock. Embedded Detonators is very similar to the Sabata Overclock of the same name. You get a reduction to damage, clip size, and ammo in exchange for your reloads making hit enemies explode. I should clarify that for both this weapon and the Sabata's respective Overclock, the bullet needs to actually deal damage for the detonator to trigger. If it gets blocked by armor, then it won't trigger. This Overclock might seem to have some harsh penalties, but the detonator damage is very high, and it can put out some crazy DPS if you do it right. If you're really good, you can even take care of packs of grunts by spreading your fire. Overall, it's a high skill, high reward Overclock. Up next is minimal magazines. This gives you a reload speed and rate of fire increase. It's a nice small little bump for making the gun faster overall, and the reload speed in particular makes the tier 2 reload upgrade almost redundant. Although the extremely fast reload with the two of them together does basically allow you to fire non-stop. If you're attached to the reload speed in tier 2 but want to try a different upgrade, this is a good clean to try to make up for that. Cryo Minelets reduces your damage and clip size and gives your bullets the ability to create small little bomblets where they hit the ground. These take about a second to arm, then if an enemy gets close, they'll cool down everything nearby by a fair amount. It takes only a couple Minelets to freeze a grunt, and the chill is AoE, meaning this is a great overclock for securing choke points and other tight spaces. The overclock in general pairs very well with the blow-through upgrade. If you prefer to use the Nuks as a support tool or just hate getting mobbed, this is a good overclock for you. And finally, we have custom casings. This gives a massive mag size increase in exchange for a small fire rate penalty. This basically means that you're unlikely to run out of bullets in the mag at a bad time, and the fire rate penalty is noticeable, but not too bad. Overall, it's good for putting out some sustained damage on a light crowd, but it's slightly less good at tearing down tougher targets. And that's every overclock for the M1000 and the Nuks. These two weapons are surprisingly versatile, and there are plenty of playstyles hidden among their overclocks for you to try.